Big Sills! Man, I mean, front and center every single day. The NFL and all of their news. NBA playoffs, baseball, all takes a second page when it comes to the National Football League. You got owners' meetings next week in Phoenix, the 26th and 28th. Then you're going to roll into the NFL draft. Then you're going to roll into mini camps. The NFL never takes a day off. It never takes a day off. By the way, we're efforting today, Phil Simms. Tone's like this, Sills, any guests today? I'm like, I'm waiting on Phil. He's trying to get out of production meetings, and we're hopefully going to be able to get Phil Simms on with us today. So we'll keep you abreast of that. I want to start the show off with this. I want to start it off with Jalen Hurts. Not a bad thing. It's a negotiation thing. Okay? This is not whether or not he's good or elite or any of that other bullshit. It's got nothing to do with that. Let me ask you, how many people have ever had this or experienced this? Your boss coming to you before your contract is up and says, you know, you're doing such a great job. Let's rip the contract up, and here's a brand new one for more money. I've never had that happen. I've been under contract since I was 19 years old. Scholarships, professional football contracts, broadcasting contract. I've never had a company come to me and go, hey, I'm going to rip this up. They've always had me, and I would assume you live out the length of the contract. Do you agree with me? Right now, I wonder if the Eagles are in the position where they look at Jalen Hurts as, if we're going to address this contract now, when you still got a year remaining on your deal, we expect some type of hometown discount. The Eagles are under no obligation to pay him now. Zero obligation. Zero. Now, that dynamic will change the closer you get to the start of the season in September. That's when you truly have more leverage. Jalen Hurts doesn't have the leverage here. The Eagles do. By addressing the contract early. Am I wrong? By the way, I'm not saying they're not going to. I'm not saying walk away from anything. Don't you think? How about, let's just do you for instance here. Let's just throw this at you. Wouldn't you feel obligated if your boss came to you and said, hey, you know what, dude? Last 2 years, you've been brilliant. You've grown so much. You helped us get to a Super Bowl a year ago. Let's get a new contract on the table. As a player, I might go, man, you know, I got $4 million next year. Do I want to really roll through the tape like Lamar Jackson did in Baltimore? Do I want to be that guy? That's right, Yacht. Do you want this to fester into Lamar Jackson or not? Hey, I don't believe that the contract negotiations are going to go sideways, and nor do I believe the Hurts contract talks are in any way going to go out of hand and off the reservation. I do not believe that at all. However, it is contract negotiations. Okay? Hey, Neil. Neil goes, job security does play a big part in this. Hey, Neil, wouldn't you feel if you're Jalen, man, they're addressing the contract early. And by the way, I don't give a shit what Baltimore does. I don't care what Kansas City, Cincinnati. It has no bearing on how we do business here in Philadelphia. Has no bearing. Let those teams and the Jets and all those other teams deal with what they have to deal with. Deal with your own sandbox. Doesn't job security mean something? The Eagles are under no obligation to address this. They don't have to. They want to. I think this is how you get the hometown discount. Now, am I saying less money than Lamar or less money than Kyler? I'm not. I'm talking about parameters, framework. I'm talking more that. Okay? I think it's more. Wouldn't you feel? Man, it's pretty cool, the Philadelphia Eagles. Hey, by the way, does Howie address other players before their deals are up? Don't they traditionally give the Eagles a hometown discount? Every time Howie's gone to a player, every player, that's the Eagle way. That's the NovaCare way. Okay, I'm just saying. I thought about that, and I'm like, me addressing this, I would feel that I would want him to work with me even more now. Now, again, like I said, at the end of the day, 2023 season starts, all bets are off. They got complete leverage. But the leverage will be in how he plays. It's a gamble. Then you're in the Baltimore Ravens camp. Then you're going down that avenue of, will Jalen ever sit out a game because he's not 100%? All of that shit could play a factor, and no one wants to go near what happened in Baltimore with Lamar Jackson last year. Nobody wants to go down that line. Nobody wants to see it, and I don't even think Jalen wants to see it. Okay? But to me, this is where you get maybe a hometown discount. Addressing the contract early. Okay? And again, I'm not saying don't. I'm not even talking about how much. I'm saying I think the Eagles expect some type of framework that favors them and does exactly what Patrick Mahomes did. Gives them off-ramps if they have to re-sign players. Restructuring of contracts. All this is going to be predicated on how Jalen plays, though. If he can carry a team like Mahomes, which is yet to be seen. He had the perfect world last year. He won't this coming year. He will not. That is a gamble, too, on their camp. You got to remember something, too, if you're Clutch Sports. They've got to know this. The team coming back as of March 23rd is not the same team or remotely close to the same team as what you had in 22. Some go, Sills, well, last year they had a lot of new additions, a lot of veteran new additions. This year you're going to have a lot of people in the draft. Inexperience. Potential talk. And what do I tell you about potential? That means you haven't done it yet. Let's move on to this next one here. And it wraps itself around Jalen again. What's the most important thing for the Eagle football team going into 2023? Just a couple ideas on what you think. If the Eagles are going to make it back to the NFC Championship game, what's the most significant thing that they have to have happen for them to have success this year? What's the most significant thing? Okay? What's the most significant thing? Most significant thing that has to happen for Hurts and the Eagles to get back to the NFC Championship game. What's the most significant thing? Plug says, Jurgens plays well. You're almost in the room with me. You're almost in the room with me, my friend. Okay? You're almost in the room. Didn't you say we were over the cap last week? According to the NFL Players Association, which I posted, Yes, they are $7 million over the cap. I don't give a shit what anyone says. The NFL Players Association posted it. It's on my Twitter page at Dan Sileo Show. According to the NFLPA, not the media, the NFLPA. Go look at it. You're going to listen to some meathead salary cap guy, or are you going to listen to the NFL Players Association who keeps an eyeball on this? It's posted. Not my intel. It's the league's intel. It's the Players Association. Go read it. Look at Troy, health. Okay, Troy, I think you're right there. AJ and Hurts and Smitty continuing their great chemistry. Like that. We need a premier running back. I'm going to make a proclamation here. For the Philadelphia Eagles to continue the success of Jalen Hurts' growth and to continuing to be better, you need to draft Bijan Robinson. I don't care how you do it. The number one priority in this draft is Bijan Robinson. Here's why. I found out last night he's the third-rated player in the NFL draft. Who is more essential to the health and success of that football team? That is whether or not Jalen can play 17 ball games. Bijan Robinson, if you got to take him at 10, take him at 10. If it's not your history, he's the third best player on the board. Jalen Carter, Will Anderson, and B.J. Robinson is ranked the third best player. The Eagles need to protect Hurts, take the carries down. He was on pace for over 200 carries last year. I heard this last night, and I'm thinking too much like normal dudes do here with this. How about this? Let me ask you something here. Is this Philadelphia Eagles team, is it now an offensive-minded team? Is this an offensive team now? Have the Eagles morphed into being an offensive team? Are they an offensive team? Yes or no? Are they an offensive team? Yes. Then continue to improve the offense. Hugh Douglas says having a great defense is a luxury. You've got to make sure. You have to. Do you know they're comparing B.J. Robinson, some scouts, to Adrian Peterson? If you're going to pass on Adrian Peterson, you know what was funny? I'm going to give you a little history lesson on Big Sills. I remember when they were looking and they were drafting in Tampa, and I'll never forget. They were looking around and they were doing this and they were doing that. And I think they drafted Cadillac Williams, who wasn't even the starter at Auburn. And I remember telling Bruce Allen, if you guys pass on Adrian Peterson, you guys are nuts. He goes, he's got a shoulder injury. Yeah, but he doesn't have a knee injury. Okay? This guy is a once-in-a-lifetime back. You got to draft him. Nope. Passed on him. Passed on him. My opinion? See, if Jalen Hurts was a traditional passer, I'd be like, hey, you got to get as many wideouts, O-linemen in here as possible. But you need a productive back to keep that guy healthy. Don't you think this would have made more sense in Chicago? If you had a guy like B.J. Robinson or Adrian Peterson, you know what I would have done as I was coming down the stretch versus a 4-win freaking football team? I would have given that guy the ball 32 times instead of getting my quarterback banged up. Why in the world would I want Jalen Hurts banged up in Chicago? Makes no sense. Stupid. The situational play calling in Chicago dictates that because of the RPO system. Jalen's the OC. He's going to know, and sometimes he's got to carry the ball against a 4-win team. Dude, you need to have production. Dude, one of the reasons why the team had great success is because you had a 1,300-yard back. Albeit, man, there's times when he's Casper the Ghost, here today, gone tomorrow. I get it. When I was told this last night from a couple of general managers that, you know what they told me? I said, man, if Jalen Carter falls down to 10, you know what one of the general managers told me last night? He goes like this, dude, if that's me and I got a quarterback like him, I'm going after that running back of Texas. They need that guy more than they need a right guard. I was like, really? Well, if you're going to run an RPO, didn't he run out of gas a little bit towards the end of the season? He got banged up. I go, I don't know about running out of gas, but he did get hurt. He goes, dude, what happens to these RPO quarterbacks by the end of the season? They're nicked up, banged up, and this is why sometimes their passes float high, and they tend to throw interceptions. He goes, you ever watch Cam Newton? Cam is awesome in the first 10 games of the season. Watch him in his prime. As the season went on, he got hit more. He starts ducking, passes go high. I'm like, he goes, that's why Carolina always had a great running attack, was to protect that guy. Pro Football Focus is the dumbest thing on the planet. Run by a guy who's the analyst for Sunday Night Football, Chris Collinsworth. Okay, it's an opinion. It's nothing more. It's not the litmus test of what's right or wrong in the NFL. It's run by an analyst. That's Chris Collinsworth's website, really. Most of you guys complain when you hear him on Sunday Night Football, but you take verbatim what his website says? Give me a break. Which is it? Do you like him or not? Because it's the same guy. It's the same guy. Chris Collinsworth, I can't listen to him. He sucks out loud, and I hate him. But that Pro Football Focus, man, they do such it's the same dude. It's the same guy. He owns it. Stupid. Am I wrong when I say, though, a right guard, an offensive lineman, or a guy who's ranked the third best player in the draft? My opinion, you go get B.J. Robinson for Jalen. The number one priority is Hurts' health. Protect him. Protect him. Do you understand? I just told Tone this. Do you understand that instead of 17 carries in a game for Hurts, do you know what this will translate into? 11 yards a carry. I don't give a shit about how many yards per carry he has if he's carrying the ball 17, 18 times. If Jalen Hurts carries the ball 5 times a game and he's got 50 yards and 5 carries, dude, that's a massive improvement on health and productivity. Okay? My opinion, you trade out of 10. Get down there. Robinson will probably be floating around between 10 and 15. I'm going to make a point to you. Can I tell you why? I'm telling you, I think you need to draft him. The Dallas Cowboys are going to. They're going to move up to get him. It's going to be Tony Pollard and him. Do you want to see that? Good luck. You won't beat them again. Your biggest nemesis is the Cowboys. They're getting better, actually. It's quite stunning. They're getting better. They're improving their team. You put B.J. Robinson back there with Tony Pollard, you have built yourself back into contention. The Cowboys, from what I understand, talking to Stephen Jones, he's a Texas kid. This is a marriage made in heaven for them. The Dallas Cowboys are going to draft him if the Eagles don't. And in my opinion, you won't draft one player unless you get Will Anderson or Jalen Carter that will match what the Cowboys will do with B.J. Robinson. And that guy will be a nightmare for the next 5 years at least. Because now with running backs, I don't go past 5 years. That'll be a problem for you. Don't let the Cowboys get him. Okay? You're damn right, Miguel. You're damn right I said that. But now you're starting to hear more. You're damn right. I said that. I said, I'm not drafting a running back. After what I heard last night from 3 general managers who all said he's the 3rd best player in the draft. And then you start thinking about Hurts, a safety does shit for you. An edge rusher does shit for you. A running back that's in the same conversation as Adrian Peterson being ranked coming out of college does a ton for you. And if you move back, you win. You win twofold. More picks and a player that protects your quarterback that you're going to make a $50 million investment with a committee of running backs and a couple guys in that old line in the next 3 years that will be retired. Lane Johnson and Jason Kelsey. You better have talented young players around that kid like you do at the perimeter. Because once that foundation continues to get older, can't win ball games from the perimeter, my friends. You win the NFL from the inside out, not outside in. Doesn't work that way. The Cowboys are going to get that kid because everybody in the media, as dumb as a box of rocks. Let me tell you what wins in the NFL. Eagles proved it last year. Run the ball, stop the run. Get after the quarterback. Hasn't changed since 1920, and that won't change. But like Tone said, Howie ain't drafting no running back. Okay. Drafting a safety who will sit on his ass or whatever. You don't even know the scheme. And you're going to take a shot at a stock on whether it hits or not. Wouldn't you take the best valued player? So let me get this right. It's more of a need, not the best player that you're drafting. Hey, you'll be in the same Jordan Davis boat. You took a guy who's not the 13th player. He's not a pass rusher. That's not the 13th player. Sorry. He's in the 20s. I'm not saying he's not a first rounder, but he's not near the top 10. He's shown none of that. You overdrafted him. Plain and simple, as they always do in the first round. I mean, if you think about it, the Eagles have gotten right. How many times in the first round in the last 5 years? Once? Devontae? Come on, man. It's because you're looking at a player and go, well, let's just draft this kid. You went to the combines, you got dazzled by him, and you drafted him. He's not the 13th pick. Maybe he evolves into it. But right now, he ain't. That dude in Texas is the 3rd ranked athlete. By his tape. By his tape. And you're going to take a safety from Oregon or a corner. How does that help you? The Eagles aren't going to win ball games next year on defense. Dude, you're going to play a defense that is this kind of defense. Hey, let's just hold them to 27 points. Let's keep it respectable. That's what that thing's going to be. We're going to hit on that here in a minute. And I'm going to show you how this all ties in. I'm going to show you how this all ties in here. Let's go here. With all that being said, what I just said, that defense is not going to win ball games. I don't think at all next year. How long before you think the Eagles will see a competitive defense next year? 5 new coaches. 5 new starters. How long before, I mean, I don't know about you, the turnover is not just on the field and the roster, it's on the staff. Paul goes, Big Sills, I'm drafting Skornoski. I think that's the offensive tackle from Northwestern. Then trade back up ahead of the Cowboys for Bijan. Dude, that's an ultimate dream right there. Man, I like that, Paul. You get the old lineman to replace Lane one day, drop that kid's ass at guard, and you get Robinson. That's a grand slam. You're protecting Hurts twice. O-line and a back that could be a 1,400-yard back for you. Dude, I love that. That's a great take. Now you're thinking, if I'm going to put $50 million into a kid, and if I can't have my defense up to par by the time September hit, by the way, okay, just seriously, how long do you think it's going to take for that defense to round itself into shape where it looks respectable? How long do you think that's going to be? How long do you think it's going to be? How long? How long do you think it'll take for that defense with a new scheme, a new coach, new players, young players, C free agents? All these guys they're signing are C students. How long? How 10 games, Paul says. Isn't that funny, Paul? That's how long it took Hassan Reddick to get into shape. And I'm not talking physical shape. Took him about 10 games, didn't it? For them to figure out how to use one player. But now we're going to sit here and talk about 5 new starters. How long do you think that will take? That's a great point, Paul. It took the Eagles 10 games to figure out Hassan Reddick last year. $10 games? With all the new players? Dude, I think it's going to be near November. Somewhere around November where you start to see a resemblance of a football team's defense starting to look like it's competitive. Your problem right now is going to be stopping the run. Okay? It's going to be stopping the run. Sills, I'm hurt. I said draft Bijan at 19, take the capital trade up 3 weeks ago. Congratulations to you. Way to go, Miguel. You were ahead of the curve. Okay. Congratulations. You get a merit badge. I think you're right now. I do. It's about get this. Bijan is more about protecting Hurts. It's more about protecting him. continuing the productivity. Those running backs that you have in your backfield right now are dudes. They're dudes. If you had Mahomes as your quarterback, that's a different conversation. You don't. Hey, that guy in Buffalo, Bijan Robinson to that team makes a ton of sense. Makes a ton of sense to Buffalo. That guy's going to get killed. As talented as he is, you know what he's kind of like? When I was a young kid, back in the day, there was a dude by the name of Burt Jones. He came out of LSU and he played for the Colts. I watched this guy. He was like an RPO guy. He could throw the ball all over. I think he won an MVP award. He was so freaking good. Ended up getting hurt, was never the same, and that was the end of him. This guy was like RG3 before RG3. He was so freaking good. This guy's name was Burt Jones. You guys probably never heard of him. But he was so good, man. But they didn't really, and if I'm not mistaken, too, I forget the running back from Penn State that played with Franco. He was in the backfield with him. They still didn't have enough. Just saying, man, you have to have, if you're going to run that RPO, man, you need somebody like Jamal Lewis back there to take the heat off. Can you imagine if Lamar had any, Lamar, when he was at his best, I think the year he won the MVP award, wasn't Mark Ingram on that team? Didn't Mark Ingram get 1,000 yards the year that he won the MVP award? I think Mark Ingram was on that team. Think about, and he led the NFL in touchdown passes. If I'm not mistaken, I think Ingram was on either that team or the year after. And Rocky Bleier went to Notre Dame. He didn't go to Penn State. Okay? He went to Notre Dame. Lydell Mitchell, that's it. Thank you, Manster. It was Mitchell and Franco at Penn State. Those two guys were spectacular. I mean, he was the unanimous MVP because he had a running game. It protected him. He played a ton of ball games that year. He's got no protection in Baltimore right now. None. And I think that's been part of the problem that Ozzie Newsome and those dudes in Baltimore have, is they don't have the personnel around him. Do you want Jalen Hurts to look like Lamar Jackson in 3 years from now because you got a committee back there? That's not going to get it done. That's not. The third best, he's the third best player, okay, in the draft. And you're going to pass on him for a corner. That to me, and by the way, let me give you a little insight on this Greedy Williams dude. He's been a bomb. He's never lived up to the second round pick in Cleveland. Never. Now maybe a different scheme, a different zip code. Slay wasn't killing it in Detroit. And he came to Philly and put up 3 absolutely great years. Maybe it changes. I don't know. But as of today, he bombed in Cleveland. He never lived up to that second round pick. I was talking to some of the people in Cleveland last night. They were like this. Then I talked to some of the folks in Chicago. The kid Morrow you signed? Dude, they graded up at the linebacker position with your dude. They hired your dude to grade up. Okay? So these picks, Man, all the guys that they've drafted, and again, to me, the move is Bradbury, restructuring of Slay, and Kelsey. Those are the three best moves. Those are the three best moves. Look at this person, Green, here, 116 tackles on the shittiest defense in the league. And? Great. And, if you talk about Kirk Cousins with empty calorie stats, that's empty calorie stats 10 times fold. Tony Pollard just signed also. Or I think it's on the table. His franchise tag of 10.091. That's what he's expected to make. Tony Pollard made $800,000 last year. He just got a $10 million raise, basically. $10 million bucks. Jerry's paying him. And I think they're going to draft a kid from Texas if he's there. Boy, I tell you, man, Dallas gets that kid. God forbid they get DeAndre Hopkins. There's word now DeAndre Hopkins is potentially going to Buffalo. I don't believe that for a second because he's scheduled to make like $1 trillion over the next 2 years. He would totally have to restructure his contract to be traded. He's not tradable right now. I think it's like 26 million bucks and then it's like 36 the next year. He's not tradable right now. It would completely have to be Arizona. And supposedly he wants more money. Dude, Hopkins is a game-changing type move if you get him. But it's something like $55 million over the next 2 years that you'd have to be obligated to pay him. And I'm like, I don't know, man. I got more issues on my football team, whoever it is, in paying one guy $55 million over the next 2 years, even with the cap moving up around 18% a year. Bijan Robinson is your guy. It protects Hurts, puts production back on your offense. Here, so how many people believe that Boston Scott, Kenneth Gainwell, and injury-prone Rashad Penny are going to put 1,300 yards and 11 touchdowns on the board this year as a collective group? You probably are paying in that whole thing there $3.5 million bucks for all three guys. And one guy never finishes the season and never has finished the season. Okay? All of a sudden, miraculously, he's going to run into the fountain of health. Now, Philly does have a nice track record the last 2 years of health. Like them walking into the Super Bowl with all 22 of their guys was unprecedented. I was completely wrong on that. I'm a believer that you got to take the hammer and chisel and you got to go to work, And so far, man, the last 2 years, they've been right. They've been right. They have been right. It's utterly, like Yale just said, it's remarkable that all 22 guys were on that football field. I mean, Derek Barnett aside, that's unprecedented. It was unbelievable. That's what makes losing that game suck even more. It was unreal. You never see it. Shit, the 17 team that won the Super Bowl didn't even roll into that game with that type of health. So to their credit, and that's a big win. It's a big win. Okay? It's a big win. For them to be able to have that kind of help. Maybe he does. And I think you do have to take in consideration how the Eagles take care of their players. I do think you see that Arizona, because they were rated by the NFL Players Association as one of the worst organizations on taking care of their players, they just fired their trainer. They fired their trainer because of numerous things, but that's one of the things. So you got to give Howie and the coaching staff and the medical staff at the NovaCare Center A+ for how they – there is no doubt if you're an NFL football player, the Eagles are an A-plus place to play for when it comes to player health. They take care of their guys like nobody else. They're always healthy. Knock on wood. Always healthy. And they're seemingly always ready to rock and roll. That's kudos to them. Not a lot of places can say that. Some places you walk, I mean, look at the 49ers last year. Beginning of the season, it was a mass unit. Okay? Can't blame the medical staff for Kyler Murray. Fly, I'm not. They are. They fired him. Okay? Fly, I'm not. They fired him. I'm just going by what their actions are, not by an opinion. You see, when you fire somebody, I go by their actions. You fired your trainer, okay? You don't want to blame Kyler Murray for injury on that? Okay, well, somebody's blaming him in Arizona. I'll say this to you. Let's do this. Here's the other topic. And by the way, like I said, I don't know if I answered the question before I move on. And by the way, we're efforting Phil Simms today. I think the defense will start to resemble something that you can be proud of in watching them stop people. Whew. I just don't know, man. How well does Davis play? Does Dean stay healthy? Are you going to get the same production out of Reddick? I'm going to say you're going to get the same production out of Reddick. You know why? Because Reddick's been – you know why Hassan Reddick is an elite pass rusher? You know why he's an elite pass rusher? He's done it for 4 years in a row. Okay? Okay, so that to me, that's a trend that he gets after people. And you can lean on a trend. He's not that old. And he's a double-digit guy. You know what makes, before I move on again, you know what makes that so insane? That he has 4 straight seasons of double-digit sacks. You know what's crazy about that? Jadeveon Clowney, his entire career, never had a double-digit sack season. And here's Hassan Reddick. He's got 4 in a row and 16 off of last year. Charbonneau in the second, better value? No way. He's not the third-ranked player in the draft. So wait a minute here. Jay, if you get the third best player in the draft at 14, you think a second rounder's better value? How? You got a value pick. Last year, you overdrafted. You overdrafted last year. Plain and simple. Hey, you put Jordan Davis on the open market, you ain't getting a 13th pick for that guy. You put Jalen Hurts on the open market, you're getting a top 5 pick. That's getting a value pick. You put Jalen Hurts in the open market and say, give me first rounders or a first rounder. You might get 2 for him. That's a quality pick. Jason Kelce, in his prime, you would get 2 ones maybe for him. Center position's a very valued position. You put Jordan Davis on the open market, you might get a second. I mean, that's how you look at, look at all your draft. Look at Jordan Mailata. If you wanted to trade Jordan Mailata, what round pick would you get for Jordan Mailata if you wanted to trade him now? What What pick do you think you get, a first, second, or third? If you traded Jordan Mailata, see, I'm trying to educate you here. What pick would you get for it if you said, I'm going to trade Jordan Mailata? Hey, Yale says, well, yeah, would it be a top 10 pick? If you were going to trade Mailata, as young as he is, would you get a top 10 pick for Jordan Mailata? Boy, I think you might get. Look at Vet, first and a second. I might ask for that for him. That's a quality draft pick. That's how you draft. Derek Barnett. I mean, dude, honestly, you couldn't get a third for Nakobe Dean right now. You overdrafted those dudes. The kid Jurgen's going to be interesting to see how he plays. I can't wait to see how he plays. Really, I'm looking forward to it. Tough. Plus, you know why? Kelsey was involved in the process, and so was Stoutland. Right? So when you got those two guys in the room with Howie, and those guys are giving their professional opinion on why this kid should be drafted to the Philadelphia Eagles, dude, I'm all over that. Plus, this is why I got high expectations for Cam Jurgens. You know why? Watch this. You got Jason Kelsey here and Lane Johnson here and Jeff Stoutman as my coach in my ear, and Jalen Hurts is my quarterback. How could you not have success? But, however, I still think that transition is going to be harder than you guys think it's going to be. Dude, there's a reason why you're drafted as a center, a guard, and a tackle. Most of the time, if you're moving from left tackle to guard, that's a failure, especially if you're a first rounder. Andre Dillard was a failure. When you turn Andre Dillard into a swing player, that's a failure. Now, to be fair, starting the Eagle O-line could be a problem because there's a lot of quality guys in that O-line. Okay, so to be fair to Andre Dillard, even though I don't like his attitude, Andre Dillard did play on the line with some of the greatest players in the game right now. So I think that's probably why he got that money in Tennessee. Said, watch this. His agent probably went around to some of these teams going, oh, okay, so he didn't start in Philly. You don't have one guy on your team that could start in Philly. That was probably the pitch. Hey, yeah, you're right. Andre Dillard couldn't start in Philly. But what's funny is you don't have a guy on your O-line that could start in Philly right now, currently. So before you start throwing shade at Andre Dillard, you don't have a guy on your team that could start in Philly. Like, watch this. Do I think anybody on the Jets could start in Philadelphia on their O-line? I don't think so. I don't. Watch the Buccaneers. Could that left tackle they have from Iowa beat out Jordan Mailata? I don't know. I think they're pretty comparable. That's why his value was high in the open market. Okay, I didn't start in Philly. You don't have a guy that can. It's great. I heard some of the pitches. The Chargers were kind of interested in Andre Dillard. And supposedly, Telesco, that's where I got the line from. Telesco goes, yeah, they go, well, you probably got one dude, your left tackle, that could start potentially in Philadelphia. And they all went, oh, okay, well, right? Yeah, that dude Tristan's a monster, man. He's a pretty damn – boy, man, him and Mailata, I think, are the same kind of guy. Probably the left tackle in Tampa is a little bit more polished because he's played the game longer. That's all I would say. Okay? All right, let's move on to this. What do you think will be the toughest position to fill with all the losses? What will be the toughest area of the team to address? And what's the most concerning area of the team? You think safety, Jameson? Really? Both safeties? DT, linebacker, Hargrave? So you guys really think that guard position is going to be easy in the running back? I guess because who's your power back? It's Jalen. I don't ever want to say that. Oh, I like what you guys are saying. But here, let me throw this at you. Man, I don't ever want to have a conversation with any one of you that has anything to do with the running game that Jalen Hurts' name is mentioned first. That's a problem. He'll never play 17 games. Do you know what the number one objective is for Jalen Hurts for me this coming season? It's 17 games, not 35 touchdown passes. The NFC, you don't need to do that. Not with that offense. You didn't need to do it last year. He only threw 22. I don't give a shit about 35 touchdown passes. You get back, I'll tell you this. If they get back to that NFC title game with the current roster, which will resemble this, get September, it'll be a bigger achievement than what they did a year ago. And that means that quarterback is officially elite. Jalen Hurts gets to that NFC title game again. I'll be the first one and the first time I've ever done something like this in my broadcasting career. You know what? Well, no, I've done it twice. I would have done it twice because I said I thought Lamar would never make it. People got on my shit for that. He couldn't throw the ball through a barn door that first year he played when he took over for Flacco. He was horrendous. Playoff game against the Chargers, he stunk. I could not believe the improvement he had. Zeke Elliott to the Eagles, you would take a broken down back. Go get the kid Robinson. Why are you trying to nickel and dime the position? Let me get a bunch of broken down guys to bring into Philly and pray they play. That's dumb thinking. Here, two broken down players, Zeke and Rashad Penny. Hey, but they'll play great in Philly. Wishful thinking. Sills, Eagles must protect Jalen. It's their biggest investment ever. Correct, Paul. That's why I started the show out by saying that running back position, it's the essential part of health. Dude, Jalen Hurts got hurt in Chicago because of the lack of a running game or the approach of the coaches not calling more than 30. Do you guys remember what happened after Hurts got hurt? Okay, do you remember? Buffalo went into Chicago, or they played Chicago. I think that Josh Allen, if I'm not mistaken, I think he threw for 140-some yards. They ran the ball 38 times in that game and blew their doorknobs off. They weren't going to go down the line and getting their guy killed running RPOs up there in Chicago. That wasn't going to happen. They watched that shit on film and said, that ain't working here. They knew they didn't have to. They're not going to put Josh Allen in a position to get banged up against a 4-win football team. I mean, they were not. Game was close like for a while, but they kept their patience and then blew them out. See, one of the issues that I had with Steichen and the entire coaching staff, they lost patience last year numerous times. You know why? Because they never had control of the offense. The quarterback had control of the offense. That coaching staff they put the parameters in place. But the guy who had control, complete control of the offense was Jalen. I can't wait to see Steichen. That's Steichen to me. Can I tell you who I think Steichen drafts in Indianapolis? Anthony Richardson. It's got that all over it. He's going to draft Anthony Richardson. And he's going to take the Jalen Hurts offense, put the structure around it, and they're going to run Anthony Richardson in Indy. You watch. That is almost a slam dunk the Colts draft that guy. Slam dunk. Charlie goes, Jalen Hurts runs his own plays. Yeah, that's what the RPO is. It's his system. I think we get Carter at 10, Gibbs at 30. Watch this. There's only two players that you take ahead of Bijan, Will Anderson and Jalen Carter. The three best players in this draft are Jalen Carter, Will Anderson, and Bijan Robinson, talent-wise. They're not going to go in that order because teams don't put the high value. But don't you think RPO teams have to put a higher value on the running back? More so they do in Kansas City? Guy in Kansas City could throw you out of trouble. That's why he throws 45 touchdowns every year. He throws you out of trouble. Jalen Hurts throws and runs you out of trouble. He has to rely on two. Mahomes doesn't. He throws you out of trouble. And when you throw somebody out of trouble, it doesn't matter how much time's left on the clock. When you're in an offense that has an RPO, you need time on the clock. You can't run a 2-minute drill 14 down in an RPO back on year 20. You can't. You don't have the time to go on a 14-play drive. You just don't. The guy Mahomes if you're down 21 in Kansas City, this guy could come back in 5 minutes. You're not coming back in 5 minutes from 21 down in an RPO system. That's not happening. That's why you've got to keep control of the game. You can never let the game get out of hand. You're down 21 with 10 left. You're done. You can't win that game. That's not the fundamentals of how RPO controls the clock and field position. The defense a year ago helped them out a lot, but I do think that what you guys said yesterday, I do think the offense bailed that defense out. I think the defense kind of started bailing them out late after Hurts got hurt. Yeah, because you have to be able to throw the ball. You have to be able to throw the ball when time is the problem, not just the score. You're down 21 with 5 left. Running RPOs, not happening. They got you. Game over. Worry about next week. Onside kicks and all that other shit you got to rely on. High percentage plays that traditionally don't pan out. If you're running an RPO like they do in Philly, you can never be more than 10 out going into the last 5 or 6 minutes of a game. It can't happen. You're not going to be able to throw yourself out of trouble like Burrow or the guy in Kansas City. That's what makes the guy in Buffalo, but he's reckless. That guy in Buffalo can do that, but he's reckless. As I told you yesterday, that stupid-ass turnover he had against Minnesota, you would have had home field advantage in Buffalo if you didn't drop that ball on the goal line. Tell you what, it had to be the biggest bonehead play of the year. It was a Carson Wentz play. That was a Carson Wentz play. Cooley goes, Dan must be blind that Jalen doesn't throw the ball. Dude, he throws for 20 touchdowns a year. That's not going to cut it down. You don't run that offense in Kansas City. You do not run it. That's why elite quarterbacks blow your doors off. Or you can't beat them. You don't beat elite quarterbacks. Not yet. Not yet. Jalen's going to be in that conversation this year where he's going to be playing against some of these elite guys. We're going to find out. Every elite guy they played against, except for Aaron Rodgers, they beat him or didn't play any. And when they got to one in the Super Bowl, they lost. He threw for more yards. It's not the point. It's situational play calling. In the second half, Kansas City was a conveyor belt in points. They couldn't stop them. And again, have you ever heard me ever really give Jalen any shit for dropping that ball in the Super Bowl and having that turnover, that scoop and score? Nope. That shit happens all the time. Okay? He's trying to make a play. You have never heard me criticize him over that play, ever. Others have. I have never. And nor will I. Happens. Guy's trying to make a play. Okay? I never, even the Monday after the Super Bowl, even really kind of remotely hit on that. It was an unfortunate play. And with a season where he had so many great plays, just happened. If Jalen Hurts was like, how about this? Josh Allen, I would have blamed him. Just so you know, if that was Josh Allen who did that, I'd have blamed him. Because he is reckless with the ball. Jalen Hurts is not. That's right, Yale. It's bad luck. That's all that play was. Dropping the ball on your own goal line with a minute left in the game that gives you a chance down the stretch to have home field advantage in Buffalo is a colossal F-up. That's an F-up. And by the way, the ref missed a bad call on that play, too, if you go back and look at it. Okay, I thought it was hands to the face and all that, whatever. I think the ref, I think that was maybe one of the more egregious misses by the refs in that game, okay, was the play on Hurts on that scoop and score. Okay, so again, all right. I want to hit on something here going into the second hour here. By the way, again, like I said, we're efforting our friend Phil Simms. Hopefully we're able to catch up with him here. I want to talk about the tough position that we're going to have to look at that's going to be essential in having to replace some players, the key essential pieces too. I want to talk more about the Cowboys too. Have they gotten closer to Philadelphia in the East? Or hit on that? Please hit the like button. Hour number 2